I hear Troy Marrow, Academy Coordinator at Futures Training Center, coached at his alma mater at NC Central, was at GW, was with the Giants, with the Orioles, has been a little bit everywhere. So, Troy, thanks for jumping on with me.
Of course, Ryan. It's a pleasure and it's an honor
Yeah,
to be on.
yep, this is great timing because you're from DC, and obviously the convention is coming up in DC this year, and I know you're pumped about that.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited. And we were actually just talking about it with Futures the other day. I think we're actually going to be able to take some of the staff out there. So excited to be back home, but also just be around baseball guys as always.
For you being able to introduce somebody to the convention for the first time, how cool is that?
It's cool because I mean the first time I went was with my first year, I think after with the Orioles or going into I can't remember which year it was. Um oh, it was the year that you invited me on for the infield hot stove. So going into 2022. And I'm just like, just imagine all the baseball like stuff that you can think of when it comes to tech, when it comes to speakers, just mixed into one, but then seeing guys you haven't seen. It's like almost like a high school reunion. It kind of reminds me of where it's like, oh, I haven't seen you like in 5 years, but like this is like where you're at now, coaching or doing whatever. And so it's just it's a big baseball family like reunion. And you don't remember like how many guys you actually like have contact with too.
Yeah, I used to wear our assistants out. I'm like, no, you're coming. They're like, what? I'm like, I'll help pay for it, but you're coming. Like, you're once you get there, you're gonna know why I'm bringing you there. Like, you have to come.
Absolutely. And so it's a great time. And I encourage like any young coach that's out there, even just any high school coach to just take the trip. Like it might be a little cold in DC, pack a jacket, but we'll be inside, so you'll be all right.
Who instilled your love of baseball growing up?
My dad. And so my dad's from Brooklyn, New York. Both my parents actually played college basketball though. But my dad always loved baseball. He would always tell me that growing up. And so he was a Mets fan. But he taught me, he's like, I want you to watch number two out there for the Yankees. And that was Derek Jeter. And as soon as I started watching Derek Jeter, I fell in love with the game. Just the way that he went. Obviously, I didn't know like at such a young age like how he went about the game. But yeah, my dad just introduced me to the Yankees, and that's when they were winning all their World Series during the late '90s, and so I became a Yankees fan and just fell in love with the game, and it was a game that just allowed me to escape as well, and so all credit to my dad for sure.
Did you get hurt at NC Central? I saw you redshirted one year. Did you get banged up?
Yeah, my very last year. So going into my senior year, I tore my labrum. I was taking BP with my dad. Total reconstruction surgery. 8 weeks post-op, tore my shoulder again, and so redshirted and going into my senior year. And then it was halfway through my redshirt senior year. Was playing awful. I was hitting like 174. Coach Kerner still had me in the 3-4 hole, and I always ask him about that, like, why did you have me there? But yeah, my last year it was playing out. I can remember like it was yesterday, March 27th. We were at Wofford. It was a bunt. Went to go field it, and I missed it. Tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus, blew out my whole knee. But then it allowed me to start my college coaching career.
For players out there that are going through injuries, what advice would you give to them? Because I always felt we never dealt with it much, but I always felt bad for our guys because it kind of felt like they were out on an island. So I just tried to connect with them. But what advice would you give to someone that's dealing with an injury right now?
Yeah, I would say just I think it's gonna sound weird, but like almost accept it, like there's nothing you can go back to be able to change your injury. And there is going to be a tomorrow. It might not be tomorrow with you even playing, but your life is going to go forward. You're gifted, you're skilled, and whatever it is, you can use baseball to take you if you want to become a coach. If you do have another year or two to still play, or even full four more years, you still have that opportunity. And so being able to take that work in and day out and to rehab. And I honestly do think like you can speed up your recovery process. I had a teammate who tore his Achilles. It was like our first day of conditioning. They told him like, yeah, you're gonna be out for the season. Next thing you know, he's back in the starting lineup like 5 months later. And it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But I think, yeah, take that rehab seriously, but also like rely on your teammates. And I think that's something like my teammates did a great job of. They knew I was the captain of their team, and they hated seeing me like the way I was, but they were always surrounding me, always checking in, and just if it was just coming over watching the game or just like going out to eat, like surround yourself and don't isolate yourself, and just continue being a good teammate.
I know it's not sexy, but should we stress more on the prehab portion of this to make sure that we're ready to go before we start exercising and activity?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think that was for me. I spent so much time. I did spend a lot of time in the weight room, but I think knowing like what I know now, how you could, how you can pre-rehab, like how you can avoid injuries. And if it's doing more mobility work, if it's taking that extra 5, 10 minutes after practice just to stretch or go get in the ice bath, like whatever it is, do like take care of your body because you only get one of them, and your body is going to break down at some point, but you have to do everything that you can to prolong that.
I was in Durham last night with my son, but I drive by the NC Central. Do you think they'll ever bring the program back?
I don't, I'm I'm hoping Major League Baseball does. I think that's probably the only way that I get bought back. I remember being at ABCA and some guy back there in 2022, and there was like little talks of it. Guys were like, "Oh, I hear Nice Central might bring like their program back." I hope they do. It's a shame. I think what's happening like with just HBCUs and baseball in general, just because we don't have the money to fund baseball, and especially with how scholarships are going to be working now. That's going to be even. I think that's even a bigger part of the issue going forward. And so I hope they bring it back. But I'm candid. I'm not holding my breath.
Well, because you guys had it going. It wasn't like the program was in bad shape. The program was in very good shape. Coach Kerner did a great job. Like that's the thing. Like the program was rolling, and then it's a gut punch that they discontinue the program.
Oh yeah, Coach Kerner did a great job. Like he took when I went my freshman year, we were seven. Well, no, I can't remember, like 9-43. And then like he turns around, we win like 19 games the next year. Then we play above 500 ball next year, beat Campbell when they're ranked in the top 25. And then I think after my senior year, starting in 2014, 2015, there was a guy that was drafted or signed a free agent contract every single year. And so he was just on the brink about to win his first conference championship too. And then it's like then you get rid of the team and, um, yeah, it was just a gut punch, but he did such a great job, and he put his whole heart into that program, and you can see that even like still talking to him today, you're like, he still wants it.
How did you get to NC Central from DC?
Yeah. So I was from like the Maryland, DC area. So I went to private school, Loyola, shout out to Loyola Blakefield. But I played for the Mid-Atlantic Mets. And so I'm sure you guys probably know Dan Gitson. Like before he started the Canes with Jeff Petty, he had the Mid-Atlantic Mets, and he had three teams, and we were just going up and down the East Coast to play at all different schools. If it was Radford, if it was Virginia Tech, we would go down to UNC. And I actually ended up there because my grades were awful. Believe it or not, I graduated high school with a 2.3 GPA. And so there was a lot of schools that were interested in me during the time, but I couldn't, there's no way that I was in, especially back then, I was not going to be able to get a Division I scholarship. But I was lucky enough that one of my dad's coworkers, his brother-in-law was the pitching coach at Central. My uncle played football at Central. I had a bunch of family members that went there. My dad's a lawyer. They have a great law school, and so my plan was like, all right, I'm gonna go to law school. I'm a good test taker, which is actually pretty funny. And so was able to pass NCAA clearinghouse and was able to get a scholarship at Central. We were playing at a showcase at UNC, and like that's when we told them I was coming down to play. They saw me play, and I think they offered me like the next weekend. And I knew at the time, like going into my senior year and like with my GPA, I probably wasn't going to be afforded that many Division I opportunities after that. And so I just jumped on the first opportunity, and the rest is history.
How were your grades as an undergrad?
So I ended up graduating undergrad with a 3.3. So with honors. And then I have my master's degree as well in athletic administration, graduated with honors as well with 3.4.
That's in the recruiting process. I would talk to parents and players, and I took some chances on some kids
Mhm.
that didn't have great grades because you kind of knew, and I always use that as a example with parents and players in high school. I'm like, the structure in college is different
Mhm.
than in high school, and even if they're a marginal student in high school, and this is also why kids should go play college athletics, because I think it gives them their one opportunity to get an actual degree because the structure is
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be there. They're going to maintain their grades because it keeps them on the
Mhm.
field. I can't speak enough to what the college athletic experience does for marginal athletes in high
Oh,
school and
yeah.
what it does for them in college.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that's the thing, you're becoming an adult too. And so something my dad would always preach to me is like you're gonna you're gonna make the bed that you lie in. And I think something like kind of clicks once you're 18 and you're like, all right, if I don't graduate college with a good GPA and like obviously like I'm here to play baseball, you're gonna you're gonna try even more in the classroom, but then like you're on your own. So you take your own accountability for what your academics are going to be. But then this is like a not totally different, but there's so many different things you can study once you get to college, you know, and you can study things that actually interest you. And I think that is a huge factor in it as well, because some kids just don't like taking those regular GED courses that most high schools offer.
We had a player at Iowa. He was a great player for us, but on senior weekend on our whiteboard in our dugout, he mapped out how many hours in 4 years he had spent in our learning center. And
Cool.
it was like 2 months of hours in 4 years because he could never get out of doing,
Yeah.
we had
That
a
study.
graduation system. So like if your grades were good enough, you didn't have to
Mhm.
go in there. But he was
Mhm.
always like right on it. So for 4 years, he had to go every week to the learning
Mhm.
center. And so, yeah, it was like two
Right.
straight months of
But
time that he had spent, but he got his degree. And so, again, that's part of it. Some kids need the extra help, but I just think the structure in college is way different for kids. And that's
oh
why,
yeah.
when kids are like, well, I'm not a good student, I'm like, well, you might actually be a good student if you get into college and you find something that you're passionate about, you're
Oh
probably
yeah.
going to become a good student.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I there's so many stories like I've heard, and the guys the same way. And I think it's great when coaches do take that opportunity to give that chance to a player, because that's the thing. There might be some kid like for me, like I didn't try in high school, but there might be that kid that is trying his absolute hardest in the classroom in high school, and he still might only have like a 2.7, 2.8 GPA. But now, if you give him that scholarship opportunity to go wherever it is, now he has an academic advisor. He has coaches that he can lean on. He has all this other support around him to be able to help him for his academics. You don't have that as much in high school, and so like just taking those chances like on those players, I think it's a good thing. And then you can obviously see that in their character as well.
What were your takeaways from your time at GW?
Oh, I loved it. I love Coach Richie. It's crazy. I didn't want to leave. Yeah. And so that's when Major League Baseball started. Shout out to Tyrone. I love Tyrone Brooks. He started the MLB diversity. What did he call it
The
first?
pipeline. Was it called the pipeline in the beginning?
Was it called the pipeline? Oh no, diversity fellowship program. My mind's blanking right now. The diversity fellowship program, and that's when I think 22 teams were taking part of it. And I remember he reached out to me to apply, and I told him, I was like, no, I don't think I want to apply. Like I just took this job at GW. Like I'm loving it here. I'm close back to home. Like I'm on the path to becoming like a Division 1, because I was 20, I think I was 24 at the time. I'm like, all right, I'm a volunteer assistant coach at an Atlantic 10 school. Like by the time I'm 30, like I can probably be at a Power 5 school at this rate. Um, but he sent it to me like one more time, like I think 2 days before. No, it wasn't him. It was my mentor. She sent it to me like 2 days before like the deadline was due. And I was like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna apply. And so I ended up leaving the job for the Giants. But I love GW. Just there's just something about, we all know this. There's just something about college baseball that you just cannot beat. That locker room, just the practices, the times, the bus rides, even the plane rides, the trips. It's a great experience. But Coach Ritchie is awesome. The way he just, I think he's one. I can't say one of the few, like one of the few like that I've been around where he will consistently coach the kid first before he actually coaches the player. And I just absolutely love that about him. Like he'll sit down with guys, he'll teach them life lessons, and he even did that with me the first day I got there. He says, Troy, what are your top three goals in life? And I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get there. And that's just the type of person he is. And so, but GW just needs a field closer to school. I mean, it's kind of close, Foggy Bottom, but I mean, like the field in Arlington. But it's I love that. I do love Coach Ritchie.
For somebody listening in that hasn't been on either side, what would you tell them the difference between coaches on the college side and then coaching on the professional side?
Yeah. Ooh, I never even thought about that. Um, it's going to sound, I think when it comes to coaching on the college side, um, you have you can be a lot more stern, with guys. You can try to get every ounce of energy, effort out of them every single day. But something I learned, um, coaching with the Orioles was that this is their guys, this is their job every single day. And so I can have one conversation, I can have two conversations, but I'm not going to keep drawing myself and getting myself like all worked up if this guy's not showing me effort, because I'm like, this is ultimately on you at the end of the day. But in college, I think you can push those guys to their limit. You can get beneath the surface a little bit. And you can do the same thing in pro ball, but it's a little different of how you go about it to get that energy, get that effort day in and day out with those guys. Because and then especially for me, because I was down in in the FCL and rookie ball, and a lot of them it's their first time in the states, and so their mindset is totally different. They might just be thinking, "Hey, I might just want to play here for 2 to 3 years, and then I can get a job in." If it's a job with the team, become a bullpen catcher, like whatever it is, like they might just be fighting to get here to the United States, and that it is what it is. And so, just being able to know how to coach the player is extremely important.
Is there anything you wish somebody would have told you before you got into coaching?
Whew. Um, see, my dad coached college basketball. Um,
Did he try to talk you out of it?
no, he's the one that pushed me towards it.
Yeah, my parents tried to talk me out of it.
Yeah. Is there something I wish somebody would have told me? Um, I don't know. Like, I think there's just some because I love teaching, and that's all coaching is another form of teaching. But I do wish someone would have taught me at a younger age how to um, almost how to balance everything that's happening like in your life, because you can get so caught up in this lovely game of baseball, and it can become like your whole
It
entire
consumes
life.
you. It consumes
Yeah,
you.
yeah, and I think just being able to take those one or two steps back sometimes and to be like, all right, like I'm like this game doesn't define me. Me as a coach doesn't define me how I am as a person. I think that's something that would have helped. I think because there could be some days where you might either you don't get into it with the player necessarily, but a player might not respond like in the right way that you want him to, or somebody like on your coaching staff, like you might like bump heads about something, and then it's like you might take that home like with you, and so you're like, all right, why am I allowing all of this to consume me? Just how? And so I've like adopted them, and it's easier now since I work at a facility. But I started doing this with the Orioles, kind of like So Coach Kerner would always tell us, all right, guys, when you step in between these two lines, I don't care whatever's happening outside these two lines, I don't care. Like this, it's all about baseball right now. But once you get off these two lines, if you have a girlfriend problem, if you're having like worry about school, do this, do that. And so I took that into my time with coaching with the Orioles, and I think it really, really helped. And I wish somebody like would have told me that sooner, because like whatever happened like on the field that day, I left it there on the field and I wasn't taking it back home. If it was conversation, I mean, she was my girlfriend, not my wife. But yeah, I think something like that would have helped.
What was your transition in and out? I think that's a really great point for coaches
Mhm.
listening in. I think you have to have a transition out because if
Mhm.
not, you are going to take everything home with you. Mine
Mhm.
was showering and then cleaning my shoes.
Mhm.
Like that was my transition out. Once I had showered afterwards and then once I had cleaned my turfs off from the
Mhm.
day, then I was able to kind of let it go. Now, if I was still holding on to stuff, I would wait. But I think players need it, and I do think coaches need it from a mental health standpoint. I think you need to
Yeah.
have a transition out. So, what were you using, or was it just once you left the field, that was it?
I think it was, I just adopted like as soon as I would leave the parking lot, like that was like the brain, I would just like switch it off. And so for me, it would actually help. Like I love watching baseball. I think majority of us do. But there'd be even times like where I'm like, I'm not like I might watch like some highlights like when I get home, but I'm not going to sit down and watch a whole game because it's just going to keep me in that same mindset. Or I think for me, it's not always even like if I got home, like I would just take a nap like right away just to like kind of like reset. And it's like, all right, like I'm here. And then I think it's like taking your off days that you do have, if it's like especially in college, like if it is a Monday, do something that you love doing. And like for me, we would get Sundays off and in the FCL, excuse me. And my thing, I love football. And so Sundays, I would go to church. I'm watching football all day, and that's it. Like I wouldn't put on a baseball, even if it was the playoffs. Like yes, I would like put on a game for maybe a little bit, but still, I think it's one of the things is just being able to find a passion outside of baseball, of whatever that looks like.
And you worked with USA Baseball this summer?
Yeah, I did 16U. No, it would be 16U, 17U, NTDP. They keep changing the names every year. Sorry, guys. Um, Paul likes me. So, what is the name? Was it yeah, 16U, 17U, NTDP this year. It was awesome.
How was it dealing with that age group of kids?
Oh my God. The kids now are just they're so much better than even like 3, 4 years ago. I think all the kids are out, all the pitchers sitting like 92, 93. You have kids taking balls backside and out of the park. Um, but you can tell like there is still something about when kids play the game and you can tell that they want it. They're gonna keep going after it. So if that's the small little conversations that they're having with you, or if it's just being able to take that time and to just even just watch. And like, I think that's something that I appreciated about some of the players out there. Like they would just like they were watching the game. But the talent on these kids is it's crazy to me. And the game is so it's not different. The the ability is just the ceiling is just keeps going higher and higher. And so, but yeah, I love what USA Baseball does, and I think they do a great. Paul does a great job, and of just bringing in like when I say diverse coaches. So you might have coaches from, like me, like I'm at Futures Training Center now, but then you might have coaches from like a high school, colleges, pros. Like you bring in all different sorts of voices to be able to get different opinions to get the eventually the best 20 guys to represent the USA. And I think that's something they do a really, really good job on.
What are you taking with everything that you've been through into the facility that you're working at now?
Yeah, and I think just honestly, like every experience I have, that's something that my boss Brandon talks to me about a lot. He's like, Troy, he's like, you have experience, man. Like you got to use it. and like share those stories like with those players. If it's something that you've seen with like let's say Gunnar Henderson when he was in the minor leagues, or let's even say for me it was like Devin Sweet who was at Central, who's gotten to the big leagues with being a undrafted free agent. It's being able to relate to these guys in a way to say like, hey, like in a good way, like yeah, like I know what I'm talking about a little bit, but it's a different type of coaching I've seen, and so it's been challenging for sure because I'm kind of like used to just like going at my own pace a little bit. Like if it's doing like infield stuff, it's like all right, I can take 5-10 minutes and talk to these guys about their footwork or about their throws. But I feel like when you're in the facility, it's a little bit more like for me, it's like go, 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 because you're like more on the clock, like in terms of time. And so I think just being able to balance that for myself of finding like, all right, is this a good time to talk to a player or is this not a good time? And so it's been it's been a little bit of a challenge, but I do like it.
Since you are maximizing your time, say you have a young infielder coming in, where are you starting with them in the infield portion of it?
Yeah, it's a combination of feet and hands. I think you can have great feet, bad hands, but I think you can also have great hands, bad feet. And so it's being able to take those two things together and build them from there. The arm, I think, will eventually take care of itself, depending how strong they get. But yeah, it's just all about the fundamental footwork and being able to come through the ball, learning how to read hops. I think that's the game changer. If you learn how to read a hop and if you don't let the ball play you and you learn how to stay beneath one of my cues is get lower than the ball. And I mean, essentially, we can't do that. The ball's on the ground, but our glove will remain.
Eyes and glove below the ball. I
Yeah,
used to say that a lot at practice.
yeah,
Hey,
we'll,
do you also feel like some of that is angles with their footwork, where if you can clean up their angles, that's going to allow their hands to work and their feet to work and their arm to work
yeah.
better? I think that's a great place to start with young infielders. Cone work, just teaching them proper angles to the
Mm-hmm.
ball, because obviously your young ones want to run straight at it. So
Hmm.
they may have good feet and hands. They just don't know it yet because they don't understand taking proper angles to the baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think even that point of like going straight to the baseball, I think even at a young age, like you'll hear it a lot of times, like just get to the ball, like infield, just stop the ball, just however you can get to it. And so like you might have little Johnny over here, ball's hit to his glove hand side. He's like, all right, I'm gonna get to this ball, but I'm gonna go 10 feet backwards to go cut it off. Or if it's hit a little bit to his right, he's gonna try to get all the way around it instead of just taking a backhand. And I think that leads me to another point. I think we need to teach like younger kids though too. Like it's okay to backhand the baseball. And I think the more comfortable they get with it at a younger age, the better of an infielder that they're going to be. And just learning to play with one hand, I think it just frees you up. But that goes back right into the angles. If you have a poor angle, you're not going to be able to get around the baseball if it's a backhand or forehand or even a ball right to you. And so I think angles and just being able to read hops is huge.
How much time do you spend on prep steps with them in ready position?
If I could spend
Hour?
all the
I mean, seriously.
I thought you know that was
Is that
what
the
I
first place? It's like, okay, your parents like, I'm bringing them in for an hour. I'm like, okay, we're gonna spend an hour on ready
it,
position and prep
it,
steps.
it's funny. I remember during that infield hot stove, I think that's when we tried out the new thing where people were just going to each of us. And I think like within like that 15-20 minute like time block, I think I had like 5 or 6 guys ask me like, all right, so what do you got like on a prep step? I'm like, whoa, if it was up to me, I would work on it all the time because to me, I think about it just like a car. There's one car at a light and the light's red, and then there's a car coming behind him and that light's turning green. Which one's gonna win through the line? Obviously the one that is already going. And so if you have a bad prep step, you're not gonna be able to move. And I think even for me, it's being able, of course, a lot of us are left, right, hop, but just allowing a kid to be able to move and to be able to get there on his own timing. And so you also know, Roberto too. I know you guys are good friends. And he would just always talk about like he would have his guys just like kind of like teeter totter like on the line and like salsa dance like a little bit. Not saying like I would do that with a young kid, but just allowing them to get their feet to move and to know what like this is what it feels like being on my left foot. This is what it feels like being on my right foot. This is what it feels like when both my feet are on the ground. This is what it feels like when I'm late. And once a kid starts learning how his body moves, and I think they can do that at a young age, I just think we need to work more need to work more on it because then the prep step goes right into being able to read the ball off the bat, which will allow you to create better angles.
Are you using any training tools with the infielders?
I use a lot of mini gloves. Mini gloves are my favorite. Use the little red machine as well. Something that I would love to. We also use the foam balls, being able to create good hands. But I don't use that many training tools. I might use like a yellow ball. Man, I'm kind of I don't want to say like old school in a way. I just don't. For me, I just don't get caught up in the like all the toys. Like I just want to just work with what I have. Like give me some cones, give me a couple baseballs, and I'm gonna make you a fielder.
Bare hand.
Yeah,
We spent a
very.
lot of time with the 5, 6, 7 year olds without a glove on and
Yeah,
softballs.
yeah. Or even give me a pancake. Like give me a pancake glove. Like I love all the old stuff.
How much time are you spending on shoulder tilt and arm slot with the younger kids? Or are you just kind of letting that happen naturally?
Just kind of letting it happen naturally. Because I think again, I think the way the body moves, and I think they can learn how to move. But all right, what's the angle that I like to like? What's the angle out that I like to throw at? Am I my guy that likes to drop down low? So if you're somebody that wants to drop down low, all right, you're gonna have to throw low. If you're somebody that wants to throw straight over the top, well, guess what? You better be getting over the top. Um, but I wish we did spend more time working with infielders when it comes to throwing, because I think it's something that is it. There's so much emphasis on being able to catch the ball, because of course we have to catch it before we throw it. But I think that's where some of the errors come into play as well, because we're not teaching you guys how to throw correctly. And so it's like, all right, like something that always interests me is like watching quarterbacks, because to me they're the best throwers in the world. Like shout out to all the pitchers out there, you guys do great. But yeah, there's just something like Patrick Mahomes, is Lamar Jackson, if it's Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, like whoever it is, the way that they can move their body and know how their body moves when it comes to their shoulder. If I have to throw this ball at this angle to reach this guy 20 yards downfield, like that's how they're able to do it. And so I think just being able to get baseball players to be able to throw, like not necessarily always on the run, but being able to move in different directions and to be like, all right, I know how my body has to manipulate that way to throw, if that makes sense.
Because let's be honest, there's a barrier of entry with how your arm works, and
Hmm.
if your arm works as a position player, I know you have to be able to hit, but if your arm works, it may not be on the infield, but they'll go put you in the outfield too. Like so, there is a barrier of entry on
Hmm.
arm and your arm action and how your arm
Hmm.
works.
Yeah.
You know, I think as an evaluator, I don't care if you're a scout, I don't care if you're a college recruiter. I think there's a barrier of entry on how the arm works because if it works, you figure out okay, almost every position on the field is in play for that athlete. Where
Mhm.
it may not be on the infield, but it might be in a different position, but it allows them to get on the field and keep advancing as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good. I've never even really thought about that. At that point. And I think sometimes we can just like look at the body first of a kid and be like, oh, he has the body of a shortstop, or he has the body of a third baseman. So we're gonna stick in there. But to your point, it's like the arm doesn't move. Like let's take a third baseman, right? We can't have a third baseman throwing straight from 12 o'clock because he's gonna eat his He's going to eat his second baseman up all day on double play feed. And so it's like, all right, maybe we need to go stick him in right field, maybe, or left field. And so, yeah, I think being able to teach kids, different those different arm slots to be able to play, like, I think also multiple positions.
When are you using random training and when are you using block training? Or is it
Uh,
a lot of block training in the facility?
it's actually not. I'm pretty like it's both. It's both, to be honest with you. So like,
Age
I have a
dependent?
yeah, definitely age dependent. A lot of block training with, so we go everything at level one, two, three. So we split things. Youngest we'll go is 10, and then the our second group is like that middle school group, level three, high school. Block training definitely a lot more with level ones and level twos. But something I read the Talent Code by
Great book.
Daniel Coyle. Is that his
Yes,
name?
great book.
Yeah. A couple years ago, and I try to implement as much. I was about to call it random training for some for some reason, but just putting like more spontaneity in the coaching with the younger guys. If that is like, all right, I had some young guys hitting foam balls the other day. Like, I won't tell them we're hitting, like, we'll be doing baseballs, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna feed you foam balls now, and let's see if you can hit it, or I'm gonna put like a flat bat in your hand as well. And then even with the older guys, yeah, like I'll have a plan like written out for the day. Sometimes it's like, all right, you got it. Like, this is what, so might be doing open close machine in cages one and two. And you're thinking, all right, this is fastball. I can use my normal bat, but then next thing you know, I might be giving you an overload or underload bat. And so I think for them that just helps them make the change a lot quicker.
How do you find that balance of coaching enough, but also not over coaching?
I think for me, I think this helps with the background and being a dean of students for a little bit, is being able to see how kids take in information. I forget the actual term that they use for it. But there's times like I can tell where a kid is not, he's just not listening to me. Like, he can be like nodding his head saying like, yeah, like I hear you, but I'm like, you don't hear me right now. And so for me, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna take a step back. I'm gonna allow you to do like what you need to do. And there's a lot of times I want, and I've adapted, and this is on the field too. Like, I like the kids coming to me if it's anything, because I think sometimes you just can get so overloaded with so much information, and to be like, all right, you need to keep your back foot into the ground. You need to fire the barrel sooner. You need to do this. You need to do that. And so then when they step in the box, that's all they're hearing in their voice. They're like, all right, I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do that. And then they just end up becoming a robot. And so for me, it's being able to keep all my cues are really short, really simple, and trying to figure out, all right, what cues like work for you. Are you a guy that is more of a feel sort of person? Or are you a guy that is more of like a visual sort of person for a cue? And just going about it that way when it comes to coaching. And then there's some guys that love watching video, because we have hit tracks, and we'll watch video and we'll watch the playback. And if you're someone like that, I'm like, all right, like we'll sit for, say, you might take like two or three pitches, and you're like, all right, like what's my swing look like? We'll break it down. But if I tell, that's like, we have some guys where it's like they like watching the video like of themselves, but they don't like hearing that the feedback like in the moment, because then they just get in their head.
How long did it take you to find your voice as a coach?
Ooh, I still think I'm finding it. Believe it or not. But I think I did find it pretty early. Because I was coaching my own teammates at 22 years old, and I think at that time I had to be able to separate the difference between coach and friend slash teammate, because it was even weird. Like, I was living with players that I coach, because we planned on being roommates before I planned on being a coach. And yeah, and it took me a while. Like, I would say like that's when it started, but I think the like when I've really found my voice as a coach. Actually, I won't forget this. It was at Baylor when I was with GW actually, and I think we were playing awful, and I was like sometimes like you get that feeling like where you need to say something, just like I gathered the guys in, and I just like let it all out on them. And I remember like Coach Richie like coming up, giving me like a fist bump. He said like that boy, I love that sort of stuff. And like I've kind of taken that. Now you can't do that as much in pro ball, obviously, but kind of like taking that mentality like with me, like wherever I go, and just being confident and knowing like, of course, I don't know everything in the world, but being confident in like what it is that I'm speaking about.
And that's a gut feel as a coach. For any coaches listening in, like if your gut is telling you it's time to say something, you need to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't hold back because then I think you'll regret it. Like there's been times where it's like I should have, especially like in a game where it's like I should have told. Let's even say if it's not even like the whole team. If it's like Johnny just like made an error, and then he's gonna be the first one leading off like the next inning, and you're feeling something like inside of you to be like, all right, should I go up to him like have like a short little conversation right now? But then you're like, no, what? I'm just gonna go out there and just like let him hit. I think sometimes like those are those times where you just need to be like, all right, I need to listen to my gut for sure.
You have any examples of guys that you thought wouldn't make it that made it?
Ooh, you talking about to the show or just drafted in?
Even going to college, even going to the show, like any of it, like any examples of where it's a guy. Because I get reminders, like Verling's a guy for me. Like I saw him in high school, and I said it to my son the other night, and he's like, "Who?" Because he doesn't really pay attention to baseball much. But I'm like, that guy is playing third base. I saw him in high school, and you could see there was something in there. But I'm like, from then to now, he has improved immensely as a baseball
Yeah.
player, and he's a really good
Yeah.
big leaguer now.
But yeah, Mark Leiter. I remember he was NGIT's Friday, New Jersey Institute of Technology. He was their Friday night guy, and I remember like I did well off him. I went like 3 for 4, but then I remember I think it was the next year he got drafted, and I was like, oh, like good for him. Like no hate at all. And then I can't remember like when he made it like his big league debut, and then I was like, oh snap! Like I went 3 for 4 off that guy in college, and so I was like, oh, I can say that now, which felt really good. Um, but yeah, I definitely had him for sure. And then also, if you remember remember Buddy Reed? Played at University of Florida, played with the A's and Rockies for a little while. So we actually went to high school together. And he was when he was a freshman, I was a senior. He was about 145, maybe 145 pounds, and like could barely switch hit. And so he ended up transferring to a school in like Connecticut. He was a really good hockey player. I was gonna go play hockey up there. And then I come back like 3 summers later, and then I'm on my summer ball team in the Caribbean League, and I see this name Buddy Reed on our roster. And I'm like, there's no way this is the same Buddy I played high school baseball with. And he comes out and he's like 6'2", like 210 pounds as a senior now in high school. And I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, yeah, dude, like, how you been? Like, how's hockey? All that. He's like, oh, I don't play hockey anymore. I'm going to the University of Florida on a Division I scholarship on a scholarship. I was like, oh, snap. And then he ends up being Florida center fielder for the next 3 years, and then ends up getting drafted in the second round, comp round. I can't remember exactly when. But yeah, like I think that's one of the stories too. So like any kids, any parents that are listening out there, like if your kid is still like 145 pounds, 150 pounds, like they still have so much time
Yeah.
to grow. And like that's just like one of the stories that pops out in
Those are
my
the
head.
ones you want. And those are the kids that kind of
Oh,
get
yeah.
discounted. Those wiry kids at a young age, those are the ones you want because they still got a lot of room for growth mentally and physically. There's a lot. They have not reached their ceilings. That's why I
Oh
just go
yeah.
around and around with the pro guys a little bit on that because they're so fixated on guys' age.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that is fluid. Like, you might have a kid at 14 who's gonna max out at 30, honestly,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
they don't really see that at times because obviously there's some confirmation bias with that, where it's
Yeah.
like, well, nobody this age has ever made it. Well, maybe nobody this age has ever made it because you haven't given them that individual an opportunity to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. He played for the Red Sox years ago.
Well, Morgan
This
Burkhart was in my age range. He was a Frontier League lifer
Mhm.
and had broke like every offensive record. He played at Missouri State in the old days, and he broke every offensive record in the Frontier League because he was there forever. But he played in the big leagues with the Red Sox. He got picked up by the Red Sox and ended up playing the big leagues with the Red Sox, and had played in independent ball forever.
Yeah, and I love, and me too. I do love stories like that because, I mean, of course, I think once you are in, if you're playing independent baseball, or you're playing Division One, even Division One, Division Two, three baseball, NAI, JUCO, like everybody, at that point, you have an opportunity to get there, and so it's just like it's about getting seen, but also just keep putting that work in, honestly. And so, but yeah, I love the stories
Well, on
like
the
that.
flip side of that too is, I mean, a guy like Gunnar Henderson. Did you know at some point he's going to play in the big leagues?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So my
Because you kind
first
of
year,
have that. Because I always think about Francisco Lindor. He's my one where it's like you saw him as a 16-year-old, and it's like, okay,
oh,
that's
mhm.
he looks like that now. What he looked like at 16, Francisco Lindor still looks like you could just
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely.
just picked it out. It's like, okay, that guy's a big leaguer already at
He,
16.
he's different. Like I remember, so that was 2022. So I was garnered. That was after his first year of affiliated ball, and so he started the year off in double A, and I remember the first time like meeting him. It was during like early camp, like during like spring training, and we're taking doing taking he's taking fungos and like I'm having to catch up at first base. I think him and Joey Ortiz they broke my like the glove of my web, and I said that is different. I've never seen that before. But also like the way like his mentality was though too. At 19 years old, like you couldn't tell him that he wasn't going to be in the big leagues by 2021. And I think there are just guys out there like that where it's just like, all right, they're going to be in the big leagues at who knows what age it is, but they are going to make it. Like there's Gunner, there's like Jared Kelnick with like with the Braves. Like he was at USA Baseball when I was an intern. Like even like Kumar Rocker, for example, even though he went to Vandy straight out of high school. I still knew back then when he was a senior in high school. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this guy's going to throw in the big leagues one day. And like same with like CJ Abrams, Anthony Volpe, like all these kids I saw between like the ages 15, 16, 17, and I'm like, yeah, they're gonna make it. Bobby Witt, another example where it's like you see him at 15, should have made the USA team if he didn't break his wrist, and you're like, yeah, there's just something that he has different than
A
everybody
lot of it's
else.
self. They have talent. Like again, you can't
Oh
discount the
yeah.
fact they have talent, but a lot of that is that undying self belief that
Oh yeah.
it's going to happen for them, no matter if they're struggling. They still have that self belief.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what for me, I think that's what makes Gunnar like stand out. Like his belief in himself. Oh my, you you cannot convince him that he wasn't going to make it. Like he would fight tooth and nail, and I think that's what the separator is with some guys as well.
Do you have a fail forward moment? Something you thought was going to set you back, but looking back now, it helped you move forward.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think when I worked with the Giants, I think so I was there 2018, 2019, and then because our fellowship contract was 2 years, I was actually burnt out in baseball because I went straight from coaching at 22 to being in the front office like 4 years later, and had this epiphany. I was like, I haven't taken any time for myself to think actually what I want to do in life, and I think like mixed with COVID, but also being able to take that 2 years away because there were times where I was like, did I make the right decision to walk away from professional baseball? Um, but Matt Blood with the Orioles now, he's one of my like like you can call it like a mentor, like in baseball. He's like, it's been one of those things, like wherever he is, like we'll always be connected. And he was the one that really, um, not necessarily showed me the game, but showed me the game in a different way that I've ever seen it before. Like when he hired me as his intern at USA Baseball, and yeah, it was that simple. I was ready to go get my doctorate degree in education, and it was like that one phone call that that he gave me to come work with the Orioles. But I think that time with the Giants, I was like, all right, like if I'm done with pro baseball, like am I gonna regret this? But like I'm glad it happened.
Do you think that's an example of timeline professionally? Because I my dad always said like be careful what you wish for, where maybe you get something too soon. Because every job there's going to be responsibilities, and obviously as you work your way up, there's more responsibilities and there's less time.
Mhm.
Do you feel like there's that kind of that timeline of okay, you got to hit some of these check marks to kind of get the
Mhm.
next thing to prepare you for that next thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I absolutely do believe that. And I think there is, I don't want to say pressure, but I think especially coming from a division, like a division one like program or like a top division two program. And it's like, all right, I do want to coach, for example, right? It's like, all right, I have to hit these I have to hit these benchmarks, like I think sooner than most people will, or like I'm gonna be set back a little bit. And so like that was my whole thing when I was in undergrad. I was like, all right. Like, well, once I tore my ACL, I was like, all right, my goal is like I want to work at a Power Five school by the time that I'm 30 years old. And that was the goal. But then I was like, all right, it's gonna shift a little bit. Like I'm with the Giants now. I'm 26. All right, here I am at 26. Now by when I'm like 30, I not necessarily want to have like a if it's player development, like whatever it is like in the front office, but I have to get here by the time I'm like 30, 31, 32 to be able to get to where I want to get to when I'm 40. But there are those, I think there are like those teams and there are those like colleges out there that just like take those opportunities like on young guys, which is I think which is amazing. And I think what you do need, but I think there are situations where you might have even say if you have a high school coach that has one I don't know. Roberto's a perfect example.
Roberto's a great
I
example.
say I was about to get an example, but I'm like Roberto's the perfect example. Like coaching Cape Cod, was coaching just high school baseball, and then
For
it's
the
like, all
love
right,
of it, by the
we give him
way,
the
for people that don't know Roberto, his situation in New Britain was it was a challenge.
yeah.
That's also something to be said too, because I view the coaching journey similar to the player's journey because I think sometimes players, not that they're unrealistic,
Mhm.
but you also have to take into consideration that there is some luck involved with where you end up or how you advance. Same thing with
Yeah.
players where you have to reframe some of that at times because if not, you will get burned out because it's like,
Yeah.
why is this not happening right now? And you get
Mhm.
frustrated with the process rather than trying to really dive into the present of trying to make the situation that you're in great and focus on that and then kind of let the chips fall where they may. But that
Mhm.
is so hard. That's so
Uh,
hard to practice
mhm.
because it is human nature to be like, yes, I'm 30, I should be doing this. I'm 40, I should be doing this. I'm 50, I should be doing this. And I think that's where some people get sidetracked with it because I think that self-loathing piece, it's like
Mhm.
you start to talk bad about yourself, or it's like
Oh, yeah.
that conversation, that internal conversation, is not great because it's like, well, you should be doing this at this point. You know,
Yeah.
you're this
Absolutely.
age, this should be happening, and that's very unrealistic at times for players
Oh,
and also for coaches.
oh, absolutely. And I think, yeah, like Roberto's like the perfect example because it's like, I mean, I'll say it now, like, I think who, like, give Roberto, I think 2, 3 more years, like, I think he'll be on a big league staff somewhere. Like, that's just my personal conviction that I have, and how well he's been, of course, managing, but just the way he goes about the game.
He's also a
Uh,
wonderful human being.
Oh,
And that's a great, it just makes you feel good because it's like it's a reminder that you know what, good things do happen to good people.
yeah, the best. Like I was like one of the best player managers that he probably actually is the best player manager that I've ever come across. The way he the way he connects with his players is unbelievable. Um, and so, but yeah, I think I can even speak like on like that for like my own journey where it's like, all right, I'm coaching Division I baseball at 22. I've made it to George Washington at 24. I'm in the Giants front office and now like 25, 26. And now it's like all right, even though I take 2 years off of baseball, it's like, all right, I still kind of have that like expectation. I'm like, all right, I'm 28. I should still be here. If I'm going back to the front office or if it's with a major league organization, maybe it is coaching at like double A, like right away. But it's like, nope, you're going to start here down rookie ball to be able to learn. But I think it's something like that. It's like where you still need it. Not like that. I got humbled. But I think the right opportunity will, like when it presents itself, like take advantage of it. Because I think it could have been easy where like, oh, Matt, like I've coached Division I baseball for 3 years and already have 2 years of front office experience on like underneath my belt. Like, why am I going to coach in rookie ball? You know? But it's like, think about it too. I've never coached professional baseball though either. And so being able just to be able to take those opportunities, I think I think it's key.
You have any daily habits or routines you feel like help you?
Yeah. Um, I think like for one, for me, I just take my quiet time and read my Bible in the morning. I'm a big man of God. But I think for me as well is being able to write everything down that I do want to. I actually just started this with my wife. The couple probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, like we have like accountability notes page that we'll just send back and forth with each other of things that we want to get accomplished like that day or like by the end of the week. And I think that's something that's huge for me. Yeah, and then for me, it's like sometimes like I set like alarms like on my phone just to be able to take that breath. Um, but yeah, and I go to the gym every single day at 5 o'clock.
You mix it up at the gym.
It's actually funny.
I'm a 5 a.m. guy too.
Oh, you talking about like time? Oh yeah, time's always gonna be five. Besides Saturdays,
But as far as your routine when you get in there, are you mixing it up or are you doing similar stuff every day?
it's crazy. I used to be really routine, but I used to be like, all right, today's gonna be a press day, and tomorrow's gonna be push, next day's gonna be legs. Now, so they have 24 hours. I love basketball. I was saying both my parents played basketball. I love basketball. And so I play basketball probably 3 days a week instead of actually working out. And for me, I think it gets like that competitive edge going. But to me, yeah, there's just something about like being able to like move your body, being out there like with the guys, just being able to still like talk smack like a little bit. And so now I'll play basketball like 3 days a week, lift like the other two. I might like work out a little bit after I play basketball, but just I'm actually like establishing like a new routine in that. And so I'm kind of liking it.
Love it. What are some final thoughts before I let you go?
Yeah. Just any coaches that are out there, like no matter like what age you are, like no matter like where you find yourself, like keep chasing like, after that dream of whatever it is. If you believe that you want to become a Division I head coach, if you believe that you want to coach at a premier high school, or if you want to run your own facility or start your own program, do it and take those steps that you need to get there. Because we are only granted one life, and it's something I talk about with my wife all. So I'm not plugging. Actually, it's a shameless plug. So I'm starting my own little thing called Above the Shoulders, where it's all around baseball IQ and fundamentals. And yeah, it for me, I don't want to wake up like 5, 6 years from now and saying like, oh man, I should have started. Like now's a good time to start like above the shoulders. And for me, it's like, why don't you start what you can start today and just see like where the journey takes you from there. And yeah, take the small wins every single day. And so, yeah, for me, that's what I gotta leave you
That's
off
the
with.
gut
Like,
feel too. Like the
yes,
universe is telling you to start above the shoulder. So do it. Like, because again, you're gonna
yeah,
have regrets if you don't.
yeah. And so, yeah, it's just started pretty much this 2 weeks ago, like officially like launched it. And so I'm gonna have my first camp in San Francisco. Yeah, just all about fundamentals and baseball IQ, and I'm excited about it because I love the nuances of the game. I love the rules. I just love being able to teach, and it's a way that I want to be able to teach kids like within a controlled like environment as well, like at a camp.
Thanks for your time, Troy. See you in
Thanks,
DC.
Ryan.
Appreciate you.
You're good.